Stories inform us to what is possible. Stories influence us to what is needed. And stories inspire us to what could be. Stories happen when people live their life to the fullest. These are the storytellers. Hi, welcome to Storytellers, the program that brings you the true stories that good does happen. And it's often from people who have a full-time job and yet they're doing other things to help the community or help other individuals. That's what Storytellers is about, and I have got a wonderful segment today because this is the gentleman, Christopher Moore, who met Connie Smith, who wrote Never Lose Heart. And they met from over 1,000 miles away, all because of the book that she wrote. But what's even as much interesting is Christopher Moore's story. And here it is. Thank you, Christopher, for meeting with me today and giving me your valuable time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Pleasure's all mine.
So you are a singer-songwriter, but I want to go back. When did this start with you? Was it in high school? Was it after you got out of high school? Tell me the story about how you became a singer-songwriter.
Well, I would say that my story in entertainment in general started at a very young age because my parents had a gospel group. And we traveled on the road with all the famous quartets, the Hensons and the Happy Goodmans and the Kingsmen. And
how old were you then?
I was actually, it began at a very young age. Well, probably back as far as I can remember. And then I started actually singing on stage with them when I was about 4 years old, because we would end up between gigs at a Denny's corner booth, and they would be practicing harmonies that they're going to do that night, and they would hear me singing the tenor part, and they said, this kid's got an impeccable talent for finding harmony parts. And
age
so
4.
Yes.
They pulled you in because they heard you.
Yeah.
This is something else.
At age 5, our drummer had brought me up on stage, and she taught me how to play with the band, and so I would do that as well.
So you're a singer-songwriter, and you play many different instruments, correct?
Yes, sir, and a lot of that just came from my as I expanded as a writer and then started recording in a home studio. I wanted to put those elements in, and I knew I couldn't afford these fantastic studio musicians, and so I was like, well, how do I become one? So I would get an instrument. If I spent more than 5 minutes with it, I would deliberate on how do I play this at least well enough to put it into my recording.
Necessity, the mother of invention.
Exactly.
Growing up, going to school, we all had English literature. Now you're a singer, but you're a songwriter also. Did any of your readings from school influence you?
Absolutely, absolutely. I loved literature and poetry, and some of my favorite fiction authors were Hawthorne, or especially Mark Twain could tell a story like nobody's business, and I was a Poe fan, and so I kind of covered all spectrums of influence, and I knew when I was in high school and writing songs and just keeping them to myself that I had the ability. I just didn't think anyone would want to listen until later.
You started in high school writing songs?
Yes, sir.
So today you're an adult and you've got a full-time job, but you're also still writing songs. How many songs have you written?
I've written about 220 songs now. I've probably co-written close to a couple of dozen, but the first 200 or so were written specifically by me, fully composed, arranged, and about half of those I've recorded in studio myself and played all the parts and something.
Played all the parts, recorded yourself. Is that where this came from?
Yes, sir. That's my first solo album. Came out in 2014. It's called Wherever I Go, and it contains 10 originals that I produced, arranged, and performed myself. And with the exception of a couple of drum tracks that I got a guy at church that I just loved the way he played drums, and I talked him into it, but otherwise everything was done by me. And it got picked up by Tate Music Group, and they put it all over the world, and it was just such a blessing because I didn't know what I was going to do with that music. I just knew that I was inspired, and I felt like I had something the world needed to hear.
When I first talked with you, you told me that you were, because of my love of theater, that you were in drama club also.
Yes, absolutely. In high school, we had so many teachers. I went to school in Berlin, Germany, and so that gave us a tremendous opportunity to witness other cultures and experience the differences and similarities and really expand my character. And so all of our teachers were very learned and very flamboyant, and they just really encouraged us to kind of step outside the box and express ourselves. And so my drama teachers were a marital couple that were in Broadway and such, and so they were just so good at what they did that everybody wanted to take drama just to learn what they were doing. Yeah, it was amazing. So we did, Anne Frank, Death of a Salesman, and Godspell, and it was just really a great time to be alive, experience other cultures, and expand my character.
Was there a favorite play that you did?
Oh, I would say that Death of a Salesman was really interesting. Playing Willie Lomax was an interesting character for me to develop into, because he was an older man in respect, and I was 17 at the time, and so if you're ever going to method act, that was probably the most extreme that I ever had to go. Well, I played Anne Frank's father as well. That was another one.
I bet drama truly influenced your writing, your songwriting also.
Absolutely. In Godspell, I played Judas Iscariot and John the Baptist, and I had to switch costumes constantly. And that was because I was the lead soloist in our choir in that school, and so they wanted me to sing as many of those solo spots as possible, and so I was the only performer that actually played two roles in one play, and it was exhausting, but it was challenging. I loved it.
How many? Oh my word! I had read once. Did you ever do Our Town?
No, we practiced it, but another troupe did it, and I wanted to do that one for so long.
I had read one time that any day in the world, that play all over the world is being played somewhere. Because it spoke to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly did.
In speaking to everybody, what is the main genre of your songwriting now? Who are you writing for?
Well, I started out thinking I needed to be in a label that would prove who I am, but pretty much I've been told by producers and co-writers that your music defines who it says your influence and what you know, where you've been, and what you are about. And so right now I am under an Americana genre, because that really is the broad spectrum of what I do. I have a lot of folk, country, bluegrass, rock, and blues elements that kind of hodgepodge into this Americana
like our
spectrum.
culture.
Yeah, exactly. And
the American culture.
Right? That's why I think my music relates to so many people, because I really thought that I needed to just be in CCM or just country or whatever, but Americana really gives me the ability to explore.
Who have you met that is probably, if we were talking to musical people, who have you met in that genre that's kind of a big name, or had connections with, or?
Well, I've met so many that have inspired me tremendously over the years. You know, the recent passing of Charlie Daniels just broke my heart. I thought that I would see him one more time. I ended up on a compilation CD 20 years ago that he had taken part in as well, and got to very briefly meet him, but he was larger than life in every sense, and a wonderful, wonderful man. And so, people like that, they kind of change your life in just a minute. And but I've had the opportunity of working for and with other artists, Lee Brice and Jake Owen and Easton Corbin and Clint Black and Trace Atkins, and people like that are people that I was just working for, but witnessing the way they did things and helping them go on tour. So that just really kind of helped me get a better perspective of the way the larger group does it, because I've always been kind of like a smaller mainstream scale. And so it's been great to be able to expand my repertoire and my character by the way that things just come to me instead of forcing it to happen.
I want to talk about you because you do some pretty significant work with organizations like Next Door. Do you actually go there to be a counselor, or do you do the counseling and the singing? What is it you do there?
Well, my wife and I were given that tremendous opportunity a couple of years ago we really didn't know at the time how it was going to go, but we said yes to her coming down with her books and donating them and speaking about the inspiration that she's received from God. And I had written the Never Lose Heart song, which is...
Now, excuse me, I've got to ask this right now. Did you write that song when you read the book, or did you write the song after you met your now present wife? Because you were in the Carolinas,
Yeah.
She was in Tennessee. You heard about the book. Did you write the song after reading the book and before meeting her?
I honestly was just divinely inspired by what God was doing through her to reach others with this message of hope. And it was the softest, simplest way that she was approaching people, simple yet profound. And I knew about her books, and I had experienced excerpts of the books that she had posted on Facebook, but I really hadn't read the books yet. I just got it. I understood what was going on. And so one day I was inspired, just out of the blue. It hit me. I couldn't get away from it. I sat down with the guitar and outspilled this song. And I called her and I said, "You're going to think I'm crazy, or you're probably going to think this is the worst pickup line in history."
Worst pickup line, okay.
But I think I've written you a song.
And you're still in the Carolinas.
Yeah.
You've never met.
Not yet. But upon talking and just having this platonic friendship, I said, "I see your third book launch is coming up, and I'm showing my support, and I'll be in Nashville that weekend, and I'd love to come by, shake your hand, and buy a book or whatever." And she said, "Well, I love your music. Would you like to perform since you're going to be in town?" And I just jumped at that chance. I couldn't believe that I had that opportunity because I really believed in what she was doing. And I never thought that anything else would come of it. I knew that that's why God gave me this song. I'm going to carry it to her and play the performance. And I did. And everything turned out.
This is it, right?
The song ended up on a CD, and there is a little-known secret. Connie, I could hear her singing Christmas carols with me the first year that we finally met in person after the book launch, and I said, "Wow, she's got a voice. She's hiding a talent." And so when I moved to Nashville and recorded the song, I asked her to come in and try her hand on the vocals, to which she said, "I am not a professional singer." And I said, "Listen, I barely am." Okay, so the good thing about the studio is if you don't like it, we'll erase it and start over. And so she tried her hand at it, and it was excellent. She brought this soft, sweet spirit to the song that it needed, and so it's just wonderful. And there's another song on it on this EP. This is actually The Jesus I Know is on this song, on this CD. And so that's for sale on the website, and we take our repertoire everywhere we go now. We never thought we'd work in this respect.
And these organizations that you volunteer to help people, give them inspiration and things of this nature. So do you sing at those meetings?
Yes, I do. She was doing speaking engagements before meeting me, and I was playing concerts before meeting her. And it just became such an organic thing. I brought her this song, played it at her book launch. Next thing you know, we're working together and expanding in ministry, and she goes and speaks, and I sing the respective song, and it just it's so beautiful the way that God knew we would work together.
An organization that would like to open their doors to you, they could get in touch with you and you would come?
Absolutely. The best way probably is Connie at neverloseheart.com. That's her email. where she will do any booking for us, and we will go to any organization, any small group. It doesn't matter how large or small. We just love the opportunity to bring the message of hope and just to go love on people and just to show them that there's always something bigger going on than what we think or what we even deserve. God knows better.
This is your studio where you do your recording and you're sitting down and just writing a song and all that. However, you also are very well versed in doing illustrations, and you also are very well versed in creating artifacts that are very heart-centered.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell us about this?
There's quite a story behind that. It actually started with these. These are concrete leaf castings that this was 3 years ago that she was scheduled to be at the Brentwood Academy Art Show, and she was given the opportunity to have a large booth and put her books out and everything. And of course I was there in whatever support necessary, but I thought, your books really speak about hard elements in nature, and especially heart-shaped leaves that we see everywhere. Wouldn't it be great if I learned how to cast leaves and just put a couple out as decoration? Well, I got pretty good at it really fast, and so I took quite a few and laid them all around and made it a very interesting display. And people would come up and they would buy a book set, and then they would say, "And how much for a leaf?" And and I would give them a price, and they would take 3. And so I realized that they're very popular. And then I started making these crosses, and the uniqueness about this is the leaf is just as unique as it was in nature, and there will never be another one exactly like it.
You break the mold after you make that one leaf.
Exactly. I cast it once, and then I get rid of that leaf, and this is the proof that that leaf existed, but it's just as unique as not only as leaves are in nature, but as unique as we are in nature.
And it's got the never lose heart on the back.
Right, that's right. And the leftover concrete, after I've made a dozen or so and it's starting to set up, is I'll throw it on a board and I'll fashion it with a palm trowel and make it look like dead wood, kind of the old rugged cross theme, because I was just inspired myself by that. And then we go on a lot of nature walks, and we find heart-shaped rocks. Ironically enough, they're everywhere in nature, and so I just started collecting them. Next thing you know, I just had an abundance.
We're in Christopher's studio, once again, I'm just reminding, and they collect rocks that are all heart-shaped. And they've got this enormous box of rocks.
That's not the only box I have.
That's not the only box. And they just keep on collecting.
Those are
all
just
little signs of divine intervention.
Exactly. And so I fashioned the cross, and then I just put that unique rock in there. It wasn't fashioned by me. It's just something we found. And so people have really been inspired by these as well. And they will order 5 or 6 at a time. And so right now I'm behind on some shipments that need to go to Delaware and Maine.
Let me point out to the audience, one of the reasons why Christopher is behind in shipments is because he has a full-time job as well as doing all of this.
Yeah,
Tell me about your full-time job.
Well, I worked for many years in the construction industry and kind of worked myself into the yacht business, and then I got out of that and was running my own business doing custom homes, and that kind of gave me the ability to do anything that came at me. I could do everything from antique wood repair to flooring to countertops or even exteriors and add-ons. And so when I came back to Nashville, I realized, of course, the coach industry, that being luxury buses, was tremendous. And there were so many people that live on these buses, not to mention the entertainers that just travel on them tour to tour. And so I got into the bus business thinking it's just an 8-wheeled yacht. And
an 8-wheel yacht.
So I really just needed to figure out how does it drive versus float. And so I've been in that industry now since being back in Nashville the last 3 years.
Now, full-time job, singer-songwriter, illustrations, I see them over on the wall.
Yeah.
This, and on top of all of that, you've done something pretty darn significant for the country named Moldova. Can you tell us about that, please?
Oh, wow, yes. I have been co-writing for a couple of years now with a man named Dennis Kurtula. and he's a wonderful Christian man. You may not know his name, but you may know his #1 hit, "He Will Carry Me," which put Mark Schultz on the map. And it's a beautiful song. That it's funny, years ago when I was a single parent in North Carolina, driving down the road with my little daughter in the back, I said, "Listen to this song, it's so incredible. If only I could write a song like this. And maybe I'll meet whoever wrote this one day." It was just, such a joke, I thought. And then I came to Nashville, and this guy, just calls up and, "I've heard your music, and, so-and-so, a friend of a friend, whatever." And we had dinner. And I realized that we were getting ready to start writing together, and I didn't even make that happen. And so it was such a blessing to get to know Dennis and to merge our talents and just start being inspired and branch out and challenge each other. And the egos leave the room, and we're just like little kids with a science lab mixing chemicals and seeing what fizzes over. And so Dennis came to me recently, and he's originally Stephen Curtis Chapman's drummer. And a lot of people will remember him from The Great Adventure and all that stuff. And just, a guy that I didn't realize, that I would even come to know. And I'm just in awe of where he's been and his talent. But he came to me, and we had written several things together, and he said, "Listen, there's somebody who goes to my church that works with Justice and Mercy International, and they've brought this plight to my attention. In the country of Moldova, is the government has stopped funding orphanages and homeless programs and such, and so the plight of homelessness was tremendous, but primarily thousands of children in the streets, in the woods, starving to death, disease-ridden." And nobody knew what to do because it just became even like more of an epidemic than ever. It was just exponentially out of control. And so they didn't know how to raise awareness. And Dennis proposed writing a song to help at least encourage people who maybe could fund a program or something. And so he came to me and said, "Well, you've written a song for the Baptist Children's Homes in North Carolina, and I've written songs that, inspire hope in people, people who have felt abandoned and things like that." He knew that I would bring that sort of attention to the table. And so immediately we sat down to write, and he said, "I just don't know what rhymes with Moldova." And I said, "How about Jehovah?" So we just, in about 2 hours, I think we had written that song, and we were just so crazy about it. It was like nothing we'd ever written before. It's really stepping out on a limb to write for, you don't even know if you're going to have an audience for this kind of song. You're just doing what you've been inspired with. And so immediately we played it for them. They loved it, but none of us were really sure where it was going to go from there until my brother came and visited me, and I had already played it for a few friends of mine, and they loved it. And my brother was just really quiet. I said, "Do you not like it?" He said, "Oh, I love it." With tears in his eyes, he said, "When I worked at the Pentagon for Donald Rumsfeld, I had a friend who worked with Colin Powell, and we went to church together in D.C. Do you know who he is now? He's the ambassador to Moldova." He immediately emailed it to him. The guy loved the song, and it's there now getting response, and they're probably going to open a door for this huge humanitarian effort to come through and start saving these children. And I'm just so excited about it. I didn't know that I would be able to touch that kind of thing, especially so quickly and so effectively.
Yeah, profoundly effective. There is a book called The Pinball Effect, and what you've just described, this goes over and touches this and touches that. What would you say to people that have a desire to write or a desire to be something of an illustrator or an artist? What did you learn? What would you like to tell them?
I would say, if you're given a passion for something, then that means you're called to affect it somehow. You're called to speak through that passion somehow. So I would say pursue anything. If you feel artistic in any way, if you feel like you could be the best accountant the world has ever seen, I believe everything is a God-given talent. And it's all in how you use it as to whether or not it glorifies Him. But I believe that if you have something, even if you don't feel like others will believe in it, God believed in it enough to give it to you. and he believes that you'll do the right thing in using it to help others. And so it doesn't matter what you end up doing. You'll find it. You'll find your niche, and you'll be passionate about it once you realize that you were called to this. You were made for this. You know, your hands, your eyes, your brain, whatever you employ was made for that particular thing. I've got a gentleman behind the cameras that was made for this particular thing. There's a gentleman interviewing me that was made for this particular thing, and they're all doing it well, doing it right, and they're glorifying God and they're reaching others. And I think it's the greatest thing in the world.
I want you to look up Psalm 46:10. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Christopher, thank you so much for this time.